I am a 30-year-old woman, and this happened when I was around 15 or 16. I grew up in a small city in West Texas with a population in the low 100, triple zeros. While not everyone knew each other, it was common for someone you knew to be connected to someone else you knew, if that makes any sense. So I've always felt pretty safe in my town. Of course, there were certain areas to avoid, but they were limited to just a couple of blocks. I grew up walking around my area, whether to go to the candy shop to get myself a treat or to run to the store to get a few items my mom needed for dinner. Walking wasn't something out of the ordinary or a situation where I ever felt scared. Well, until a hot summer day in July. My best friend at the time, Alison, and I were beginning to get bored at her house. I basically lived there during the summer, and we'd done just about everything two teenage girls not old enough to drive could do. The boredom was becoming mind-numbing at that point. That was until Alison's dad came into her room and suggested we go for a run. He was a physical education coach, so of course he suggested a workout. I sighed and Alison rolled her eyes, but we decided why not? We needed to get out of the house anyway. We changed into some workout clothes, grabbed some water, our headphones, and then headed out. Now, the area of town she lived in wasn't the nicest, but generally safe. It was an area with older houses and older people. The roads were full of potholes, and there was no sidewalk. Definitely not ideal for a run. So we decided to walk to a school about 4 blocks away. They had a newly paved track where we could do a few laps. The track was at the back of the school, directly across the street from some apartments. This comes into play in a few minutes. Beside the apartments were more houses, so basically the school and apartments are in the middle of a neighborhood filled with houses. Once on the track, Alison and I did some stretches, touching your toes along with pulling your legs back to get a front thigh stretch. We tried to act like we knew what we were doing. At that time, I looked over at the apartments across the street. On the second floor balcony, there was a tall Hispanic man, maybe in his late 20s, staring at us, leaning his tattooed arms on the rail casually, smiling a toothy grin. Okay, weirdo, I thought. Being two teenage girls, Alison and I had gotten our fair share of creeps staring at us. The occasional catcall, men of all ages approaching us and asking for our numbers, so we just did what we always did, ignored them. Turning away from him, we lined up on the track and put our headphones in. 3, 2, 1, go. We started to jog together at a fast pace. Now I have to mention Alison was a dancer since basically birth. She'd been in classes for years, ballet, jazz and more. So she runs like she's dancing high bounce, straight back, pointed toes and long strides. Needless to say, seeing this out of your peripheral vision is quite distracting and honestly hilarious. I kept laughing and I couldn't focus. My breathing was becoming all sorts of messed up, so I suggested that we start again and run in opposite directions, meeting up in the middle as the track was oval-shaped. Alison agreed, and we started again. We made it around 1.5 laps. As I was coming to face Alison again to make another lap, I saw her look at me, take out her headphones, and motion with her head towards the gate for us to leave. I was confused. We just got here and we haven't even done half a mile. What was the point of even coming out here? I shook my head no and mouthed, "Keep going this time." She shook her head very hard, gritting her teeth and motioning for us to leave. As she was doing this, she was looking behind me. Feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, I looked behind me. Shocked, I saw the man who was on the balcony from earlier now directly behind me, only about 20 feet away. He was walking quickly. Prepared to tell him to screw off, I opened my mouth to speak. Just at that second, I saw a flash of something reflecting the sun in his right hand. It took me a second to process it. It was a knife. We ran. Me and Allison sprinted to the gate. Allison fumbled to move the latch. While she was doing this, I looked back and saw the man laughing and jogging towards us. Allison finally got the gate to open and we took off. I ran as fast as I ever run. I normally get tired fairly quickly, and I was already feeling it from that one lap I did, but somehow I didn't feel anything. I felt like I could run for miles. No pain, no labored breathing, just my feet going at what felt like 100 steps a second. This part is embarrassing, but like in a horror movie, I decided to run down an empty, dark alley. Luckily, Allison was there to grab my arm and pull me back to the neighborhood street. I looked behind me to see the man still chasing us, but we were making distance. We ran through people's yards to make sure we were close enough to the houses if we needed to yell for help. That's when the man finally backed off. I guess chasing two teenage girls with a knife through someone's front yard was just too obvious for him. We finally made it into her house after what felt like a huge blur bursting through her front door and collapsing to the floor. Allison blurted out what happened to her parents. Her parents seemed to think we were overreacting, that maybe we just thought we saw a knife, but Allison and I know what we saw. We debated calling the cops, but decided against it after Allison's parents' reaction. We had started to doubt just how serious the incident was. Of course, if this would have happened to me now, I would have called the cops. And to anyone who's worried about bothering police officers or is starting to doubting their gut feelings, don't. A cliché saying still rings true: it's better to be safe than sorry. So the moral of the story, you ask? Maybe working out isn't for everyone, and it also pays to have observant friends. Oh yeah, and always pay attention to your surroundings.